Well, welcome back to our second episode of Chewing the Loo, and I'm going to be honest, I hope you're prepared to hear me nerd out on what's in season here in St. Louis.
Nerd alert.
I know, but guess what? We're going to have fun with it.
Because there are lots of things in season, and I know this because my garden is bustling. The farmer's market is bustling.
Yes.
It's full of what? What's in season right now?
All right, are you ready for this?
We're
Eggplant.
Ready. Are y'all ready for this?
Eggplant.
No.
Zucchini. Tomatoes. Those are probably the three biggest crops that are going to be coming in around this time. There's also okra, and okra is always the fun one to kind of talk to people about because people typically don't know what to do with okra, right? The main answer, besides gumbo, the other main answer is just fry it, right?
Yeah.
Which is delicious fried.
Yeah.
But that's always fun to kind of talk to people about because it's if you've never worked with okra before, it looks very foreign. It looks like this, alien pod that has somehow come down.
Can I confess that I don't like okra?
You don't like okra?
I don't.
Oh, it's okay.
I like gumbo, but I don't like okra.
Okra. Well, so it can, it's understandable. Like, okra has this grassy sort of flavor to it. The texture of it too, when you first cut into it or open it, it emits this goo-like substance, right? Which is why it's great in gumbo. It's great in stews because it's naturally used as a thickener.
I don't know if I like things that emit a goo-like substance.
I know, and that could be scary if you're right. It's not a hot lava chocolate cake that's just rolling out.
That is what I'm talking about. That's the kind of goo I'm going for.
Well, so okra was brought over to the States from Africa by the slaves, and it is traditionally native to Africa, and so it's used a lot in African cooking as a main source of nutrition, but it's also used as a thickener. In a lot of their stews that they have, they use it in other components of their dishes. It's delicious to eat by itself. If you just stew it up with some tomatoes and some eggplant, you've got like a nice succotash.
Oh,
yes, good old succotash.
Succotash. All right, let's talk the big ones though.
Yes.
Let's talk tomatoes.
Tomatoes.
Let's talk tomatoes first. So, obviously, lots of home gardeners.
Yes.
You're pulling tomatoes after tomatoes and bushels of tomatoes out of our gardens right now. So, where else can you get tomatoes?
Well, I just bought probably like 50 pounds of tomatoes at the farmer's market from one of the local farmers there. And I know that, if you go to any farmer's market, St. Louis has got so many. I mean, you think about it, if you miss it on Saturday at Tower Grove or Kirkwood or Ferguson, you can hit it up on Tuesday again at Tower Grove. You can go to Maplewood and hit up their farmer's market that they have there as well. So there's lots of opportunities from local farmers that have great varieties of tomatoes.
Is it worth it to seek out a farm fresh tomato at a farmer's market as opposed to just run-of-the-mill tomatoes from the grocery store?
The answer to that, Joe, is always yes.
Okay, good.
Yes, and here's why. Nerd alert.
Nerd alert.
Okay, so when we buy local and when we support local, especially when it comes to produce, we're getting a much better product than those that are coming to us commercially because they've been allowed to stay longer on the vine and in the plant, meaning that they're allowed to take in more nutrients and be able to create like their sugars, their starch levels. They're so much better when they come off the fresh vine than when they come off the grocery store. Because a lot of times they have to use gas to ripen those. And you look at me, he gave me a funny look about gas.
I don't want gassy tomatoes.
I know, no one does. But gas is naturally emitted from all fruit, right? Ethanol is emitted from all fruit, right? Your bananas are the biggest producer of it. That's why your bananas in your counter in your kitchen can make everything else get super ripe super quick all around it because it's omitting that.
Such a nerd.
I
Such
know.
A food nerd. I
know. Ooh. So, definitely get it from your local gardener or your local farmer. Your neighbors probably got a bunch of them that they're probably looking to get rid of too.
It's a great thing too that if you are a home gardener and you've got an abundance of tomatoes, share them with your family and friends. This is speaking as somebody who loves when my neighbor knocks on my door and gives me fruits and vegetables from his garden that I didn't grow. I love when my sister's like, oh yeah, take some cucumbers from my garden. Sure, why not? Like, share your bounty and share your crop with your friends. Be neighborly. That help out all of St. Louis that way.
Yes. Yeah. Well, and there's a couple things when you are cooking and when you are using tomatoes in your, culinary adventure that you're going on, just to kind of think about. So there's a couple tips to making sure that you are utilizing your tomatoes correctly. One, don't refrigerate your tomatoes. The reason why you want to leave them out at room temperature is when you refrigerate them, the cold will actually make the interior structure of your tomato mushy. So keep them out on your counter.
Nobody wants gassy or mushy tomatoes.
No, and they'll still last for 2 to 3 days room temperature in your kitchen. Right? And one of the other things is don't ripen your tomatoes in the sun, right? How many times do you see, I've seen my mom put the tomatoes on the ledge with the sun window. You want to put them in a brown paper bag to allow the gas to ripen them within that brown paper bag.
Note to self, I need to go home and take my tomatoes off my windowsill where they're sitting right now.
And then the other advice I would love to give everyone is tomatoes do bruise very, very quickly, so don't pile them on top of each other. If you actually turn them over to where the sprout part, the connected part of the tomato is, turn it upside down because that is the more structurally sound part of the tomato. It will reduce it from being bruised and becoming soft on the inside.
Fascinating.
Did you know?
You are a wealth of food nerd knowledge.
Yeah. Do you want to move to eggplant? Because I've got
No,
some
I want
things
to
on
talk
that.
food recipes with tomatoes. Like, what do you? So, when I pull a nice, beautiful, like purple tomato or red brandy wine,
Those purple Cherokees are delicious.
oh my gosh, all of them are so good. So, my favorite thing to do with a farm fresh tomato or a garden fresh tomato, in my case, is a big thick slice of tomato, a nice toasted slice of plain white bread.
Yeah.
Maybe a slice or two of turkey, and that's it.
Yeah.
Salt, pepper, voila. Like, there's nothing better than just that amazing fresh tomato.
Yes.
As the centerpiece of a sandwich.
It's true. But I will say you need to season your tomatoes.
I said salt and pepper.
Salt and pepper. That's good.
Salt and pepper.
That's good. It needs that salt to really amplify the flavor.
It does.
My go-to summer tomato recipe, and it's very simple, I just marinate my tomatoes. I have a jar of rotating tomatoes, and the marinade's pretty simple. It's just, a third of a cup of olive oil, a fourth of a cup of red wine vinegar, and then I mince up some shallots, some garlic, and I throw fresh basil in there, and some fresh parsley, and then I just put my tomatoes in there, and then I let it sit in the fridge. And then essentially when I need it on a salad or on a tomato, they have this beautiful flavor to them. And then if I have 2 or 3 left that kind of got neglected, I'll just puree it, and I've got a tomato vinaigrette. So that is my summer continuous rotating recipe for tomatoes.
Lovely.
Yeah.
Lovely.
Put that on a BLT, your world will be changed.
I think there's also, to channel the Italian in me, just the classic big slices of tomato, large medallions of fresh mozzarella,
The beefsteak.
and fresh basil, and a little drizzle of olive oil, maybe a dash of garlic salt across the top. Oh, maybe a little balsamic on there. Oh.
I'm going to tell you, Italians do tomatoes right. They do. And the funny thing is, if you look back at tomatoes, they weren't native to Europe. They were actually a gift from Christopher Columbus because he brought them over. I believe they sourced it back to Peru, and the Spanish didn't know what to do with it. People thought it was poisonous, so they gave it to the Italians, and they made it a thing
indeed.
to do. Yes.
We don't like our tomatoes gassy, mushy, or poisonous.
No.
There you go.
There you go. Who knew those 3 trifectas?
Well, tomatoes are in season in St. Louis,
Yes.
so if you've got a great tomato recipe or great way you use them, snap a quick picture. If you've got tomatoes busting out of your garden, share them with us using hashtag #ChewinTheLou on your favorite social media channel.
Yes.
And let's turn our sights to eggplant.
Yes, good old eggplant. Now, eggplant's delicious. And I know classic eggplant parmesan, right? That's usually my go-to at an Italian restaurant. But if you want to like really go down the rabbit hole of eggplant, you want to kind of tap into Middle Eastern cooking, Indian, Mediterranean. Those are sort of main staples. You know, baba ganoush.
Ganoush, yeah,
Oh yeah, that's the way to do it. But one thing that just if you're cooking with eggplant at home is you've got to do one thing is that you need to make sure that you salt your eggplant and let it sit for a little bit. There is a bitterness that can come out of eggplant if it's not properly sort of seasoned ahead of time. You can also marinate it in milk and salt, which is how I like to do my eggplant.
Now, I also read and have had experience with it. Eggplant really soaks up a lot of stuff.
It does.
So you can't just throw a bunch of olive oil on it because it'll just soak up all of that olive oil like a sponge, and you'll just have really oily eggplant.
It will. It's kind of like a sponge. It's very similar to like if you ever cook with mushrooms. Like a mushroom's sort of the same sort of mindset. Like it will take everything in that pan and soak it up. So when I talk about marinating it in milk, right, and to your point, that it will kind of take in some of that milk, so it will help the texture of it become nice and creamy, but that milk also will take out the bitterness in the plant as well.
Now,
So it's
Lydia
nice.
Bastianich, who we air on 9 PBS, Lydia, I was watching an episode of her show a couple months ago and talked about when picking an eggplants that, you know, the best ones actually to cook with are the young, thin ones, if you can find them. Sometimes we see these ones in the grocery store that are these large, giant purple eggplants. And they can be very fibrous. They can have big seeds in them. You want to try and get them when the seeds are small and white on the inside. And the long, skinny, almost, I think the Asian-style eggplants are the ones that tend to be easier to cook with, is what she said. I was like, oh, good to know. Because whenever I go to the grocery store, I was like, give me the biggest eggplant you have. Why not? And that is not the way to go.
Yeah, no, those big long ones are great for roasting. So if you're hoping to do just a main, just cut it in half and score it and then put a little oil and some, herbs on top of it, that's the best form of it. But yes, definitely go for a smaller, nice, tender eggplant. Right. So it's the way to go.
Small, nice, tender eggplants.
I know.
It's the way to go.
Yes. Now, I will say that if you're looking to explore a spice to pair with your eggplant, to open up the world of za'atar, which seems to be a very hot spice blend at the time.
So za'atar, spell that for
Za'atar.
us.
So it's Z-A''ATAR.
Oh, so like
Za'atar.
za'atar.
Yeah.
All right.
Yes. Yeah. And it's a regional spice, so depending on, there's different blends and different varieties out there, but it's mainly has like oregano in it. It has sesame seeds, black pepper, which those profiles go really well with your eggplant. There's a chef, Adelingi, who is based out of Jerusalem, that he has done some phenomenal eggplants. One of his, or aubergine, as the British like to say. Aubergine is his favorite vegetable to work with, so he's a great resource as well. So
Very cool. All right, now let's turn to zucchini.
the gift that keeps giving.
I have so much zucchini. Every year I plant like 1 or 2 zucchini plants, and it is the most bountiful crop I have. I don't know if it's my soil in my garden or what, but it's amazing. And lucky for me, I have actually acquired a taste for zucchini in the last couple of years because of my garden and the bountifulness of it. And I've actually gone beyond grating it and putting it in chocolate zucchini bread, which was the only way that I could get my kids to eat it. I'm not just smothering it in chocolate chips.
Yeah.
I'm actually cooking with it now.
That's awesome.
And there's lots of different ways. So talk to me about zucchini.
Oh, well, zucchini is it's very full of water. So whenever you are using it to bake with, you really want to make sure that you give yourself the opportunity to squeeze out as much of that extra moisture as possible. So you'll see a lot of recipes. Like I like to make little latkes with my zucchini, little zucchini cakes. But the trick with it is the moisture content in it. So you really want to make sure that you allow yourself the time. And salt, a little bit of salt on there is going to help pull out some of that moisture too. So make sure that you just sprinkle a little bit. A little bit goes a long way with that. What do you do with your zucchini outside of the chocolate bread?
We've been eating a lot of zucchini in the Prosperi household lately. And obviously the kids don't eat it because it's green. And right now my kids are averse to anything green. So my wife and I, though, when we multiple ways we've been doing it. One, we grill it all the time, and it's just got a real easy marinade that you throw on before you throw it on the grill, and it is got red wine vinegar and honey and lemon juice and chopped mint and whole ground mustard. And you mix all that up and you slather on some zucchini and then you grill it. And then when it comes off while it's still hot, you sprinkle on just a little bit of feta cheese.
That sounds delicious.
And you're like, oh, that's kind of odd, feta and mint and mustard. And no, it all works together in a wonderful, beautiful way to make a wonderful grilled zucchini.
I will tell you, mint has been the surprising herb with the fact that it blends so well in just some of these dishes that you would never think. It goes really well with cilantro, and it goes really well with oregano. And it's a great herb to use for both zucchini, eggplant, and tomatoes, surprisingly enough.
We've also been using the air fryer a lot with our zucchini and making zucchini fries where you chop up zucchini into just kind of wedges, and then you dredge it in some flour, some panko breadcrumbs with some Italian seasoning and Parmesan cheese. Throw those in the air fryer for 10 minutes or so, flip them halfway through, spray them with some olive oil spray, and then dip those in marinara. Oh, so good, so easy, so
sounds amazing.
Kind of healthy because it's zucchini, even though it's air fried, so again, kind of healthy.
Yeah.
And that's really wonderful. I've been spiralizing zucchini to make zucchini noodles. Pro tip on zucchini noodles, like Lydia said earlier, high water content on those. So if you've got zucchini noodles, or you're making zucchini noodles, once you spiralize them, throw them in a colander, give them a good salt, let them sit for 10 or 15 minutes, and then squeeze all the water out of them in a paper towel or cheesecloth. Gets a lot of that moisture out of them before you saute them with some sauce. I like to add them in with rice noodles, oyster sauce, soy sauce, chicken, and make kind of a lo mein with zucchini noodles. Really, really delicious and easy and healthy. So lots and lots of ways I'm using the zucchini right now because it's bountiful in my garden.
Now, there's one dish that can take the power of all three of these things we've talked about. Ratatouille.
Oh, I was going to say veggie lasagna, but
that
they're close and similar.
Yes.
Similar in style.
Yes. So, Ratatouille became very popular by good old Pixar, right? So it invoked childhood memories from the snobby food critic. But
His name was Ego.
Ego, of course you would know that.
You should know that. You have small kids too.
I probably should. So Ratatouille is a great way to utilize all three of those. And essentially it's just a matter of cutting them into medallions and layering them through. And depending on whose recipe you want to use, I'd say go with Julia Child's, but you ideally would just throw some olive oil and garlic and some nice herb blends over the top and bake it. It's delicious. Can't go wrong with it.
Change that for some pasta sauce or some red sauce, some marinara, throw in some ricotta and some Parmesan cheese, and you got veggie lasagna.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a little bit of...
You can't go wrong with this time of the year. Now, if we've talked about vegetables, let's talk about the fruit, right, that's in season right now. Peaches, they're coming to an end.
Coming to an end.
They're rolling to a stop. So the peach is, right now we have the Freestone peaches. You'll notice that if you get them in the grocery store, they don't have the fuzz on them. But peaches are fuzzy when they come off the tree. They've just been sent through this fantastic little machine with a little hairbrush to kind of take that fuzz off. So when we get it at the market, it's not fuzzy.
Who invented that machine?
I don't know.
I'm famous because I invented the machine that takes the fuzz off of peaches.
I know. I wonder about the good old term of peach fuzz for facial hair, if that's going to be lost on kids, knowing that peaches aren't fuzzy when they buy them at the store.
When did that stop? I don't think I ever realized that just isn't a thing anymore.
It's not a thing. It's not. There's an actual machine that you send it through.
Huh.
So
You just blew my mind.
I know. When you go to the store next, look at your peach, and you'll notice that it doesn't have the fuzz that you would have if you picked it straight from the source. Wow. So, yeah. So peaches, blackberries are coming to the end.
Peaches make a great caprese too.
They do.
That was something that we learned from Jack Bishop last year.
And I'll tell you, it's so good.
Oh.
So layer with the peach and the mozzarella and the tomato and a little dash of white balsamic in there with some olive oil. You don't need much else. It's a beautiful thing about
And basil.
Yeah, and basil, of course. Of course. But you know what's really great is if you make an olive oil cake, and then you could take the peaches and your blackberries and make a nice little compote with it and put it on top of your olive oil cake.
Hot
It's
dog.
delicious that way.
Delicious.
Yes. So, but that's what's in season. I mean, we're rolling into fall here before long. So get what you can.
I know. Coming up soon is going to be apples and then pumpkins.
And
We got lots
squash.
coming in season. Ooh.
Oh, I know.
It's a fun time to live in the Midwest. It's a bountiful crop season. It's almost harvest time. It's that. I don't know. There's a reason why fall is the best time of the year in the Midwest.
It is, but should I mention that pumpkin spice will be reiterating itself into your life?
Boo. You will learn quickly that I'm not a fan of pumpkin spice. However, I am a large fan of pumpkin bread. I love pumpkin bread. Again, call back to our previous episode about food journeys. I grew up with my mom making pumpkin bread all the time. She still, for Christmas and my birthday, gives me many loaves of pumpkin bread. Shout out to my mom for that. Love pumpkin bread. Do not like pumpkin spice lattes. Do not like pumpkin pie. But love pumpkin bread, but despise pumpkin spice lattes.
The vessel in which it comes to you is how you despise it.
Yep. I think it tastes like if I were to lick the floor of a Michael's craft store. That's what I think it tastes like. It's an amalgamation of fake fall flavors.
Okay. All right.
And on that note, let's wrap up today's episode.
Some strong feelings from Joe Prosperi.
I have very
will
strong
end-
feelings on pumpkin spice lattes.
end this
I like
episode.
Starbucks. We'll talk more about that later. But pumpkin spice lattes are not a thing for me.
Okay. Well,
Sorry to jump on you.
good to know. Well, enjoy yourself. Happy cooking, everyone, and enjoy all of these seasonal treats. Visit your local farmer markets to get the best produce out there.
Your hosts for the Chew in the Loop podcast are Joe Prosperi.
And Lydia Lynn.
Our producer is Veronica Moheski. And this is a production of 9PBS in St. Louis.